Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Asani. Good to have all of you here this morning. I love the fact that you are back with me. It's been a season where we've been away working on things behind the scenes, but we're back live and direct to spend every single morning with you. Today, we're talking about how to win back your spouse's heart, how to win back his or her heart, particularly after there has been some major offense, some violation, some betrayal, some affair. Now, keep in mind, overwhelmingly, the majority of people who watch this station, tune into this channel, are here because of infidelity. However, there are some of you who may not have experienced that, but there have been other types of betrayals that has caused a rift in your relationship, and you're looking for help. Well, if that's you, we're glad that you're with us here this morning. So even though we typically speak through a lens of infidelity, this information applies to you as well. Many people in their relationship find that they fell in love, they got married, and things were good in the beginning, but slowly but surely things began to dismantle because of poor communication, because of the inability to resolve conflict, because of all of these issues that get buried and not addressed, not dealt with. There's a slow decline. There's a slow emotional detachment. Then walls are built up. Then resentment and contempt and all types of things get in the way of the harmony. And so the companionship, the relational dynamic significantly suffers, and there's a deadness. There's an emotional, there's a spiritual, there's a sexual deadness, if you will, in the relationship. And so the question is, how do you get your spouse's heart back? How do you realign and reconnect and restore what has been broken? That's what we're talking about today. And so on yesterday, we talked about the importance of what? Learning how to apologize. That when you've done something wrong, you have to have a contrite heart and an ability to really speak to the things that you've done to cause hurt and harm in your spouse's life. And you have to give a genuine apology. But to apologize with no change is nothing but empty words, right? So when we talk about repentance, it means that I'm turning course, I'm going in another direction, I'm doing something different. For to do the same thing and expect different results would be insanity. And so if you've given a genuine apology, how do you follow that up? You follow that up with deeds and actions. And these particular deeds and actions that we're going to unpack today are the very things that need to be done to win your spouse's heart back. So we're going to be going step by step, line by line, and unpacking this. Now, step number one, you got to understand that each of you exist on what we would call a one-day contract. Let me explain what this means. So a lot of us, once we say I do, we make the assumption, she ain't going nowhere. He ain't going nowhere. They ain't leaving. They're going to be in this relationship forever. And I think what happens is, if we have the belief and the posture and disposition that our spouse, regardless of what we've put them through, really isn't going anywhere, we will, number one, justify why we continue to do what we do, or we'll rationalize why we don't need to do anything. Because guess what? There are no consequences that are coming for what I've done. And so we continue sometimes to disregard our spouse. We take them for granted. We often take advantage of who they are. We don't treat them the way that we should. And somehow we think that bad treatment will lead to loyalty and commitment. We have to learn how to treat our spouses like we would a customer. If you have a business, if you're entrepreneurial, or if you work within a business, the heartbeat of any business is the customer. Without the customer, you have no business. So it is your responsibility to invent on their behalf. It is your responsibility to do everything that you can to make the customer happy so that they continue to come back. And so likewise, it's the same approach that we should have with our spouse. Now, the reality is, if you get too comfortable, you will no longer serve your customer the way that they need to be served. And you spend more attention acquiring new customers than maintaining existing customers. And that's the problem. So the assumption is they've been with us, they've been shopping with us, they've been taking advantage of our services for years. and you get comfortable and you no longer give them the time, you no longer give them the attention, you no longer give them the service that they desire, and then all of a sudden they're tempted to go in other directions because things have shifted and changed. And so likewise, when you treat your spouse that way, you're giving them reasons to reconsider. So just like a customer can re-sign because they want more, or choose to resign because they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, a spouse can do so as well. A spouse has the freedom and the ability to leave at any given point. And so there was a situation where a man was unfaithful to his wife and his wife left, and he begged her to stay for just one more day. Listen, I know you left the home. I know you want to leave me forever, but will you give me just one more chance? Just stay for one day. So she honored his request, stayed for that one day, and the next day packed her bags, ready to go. And he's just like, well, where are you going? No. You said, I need you to stay for one more day. No, you said one day. I honored your one day. I'm out. No, please, just one more day, and convinced her to stay another day. Well, 35 years later, he's on a day-to-day contract. What an awesome philosophy and mentality to have. That if I truly want to win your heart back, I can't assume that you're always going to be here. I may have to assume that you have the freedom and the ability every day to choose something other. So what can I do today to win your heart? How can I show up today to further convince you and inspire you to stay? What do I need to do for you to avoid the temptation to want to leave? If I'm in constant pursuit of my spouse, they stay. I'm winning their heart back. So just as you chased your spouse, which led to an I do, you have to continue to pursue and chase yourself. There's the power of pursuit. Because the reality is, when you stop pursuing, keep in mind, someone else is always in pursuit of your spouse. Now, that's not a threat. That's not to keep you only doing something to prevent something else from happening. But what we're ultimately saying is, you should not get so comfortable that you no longer do with and for what you used to do in the beginning of the relationship. So a day-to-day contract says, tomorrow's not promised. I don't know what may happen tomorrow. I don't know what you may choose to do. So I'm going to do my best to show up in such a way to win your heart, to give you a desire to never want to leave because things are too good here at home. Is that making sense? Like when we take on that type of philosophy and belief, things begin to shift in our own behavior and disposition. And now a person doesn't feel like they're just staying in it because they're obligated. They're just staying in it because of the kids. They're just staying in it because, you know what? You know, the Bible says don't divorce. Like they're doing it because they genuinely want to do it. And so that is an expression and a disposition that you should have. The second thing, we've talked about this periodically from show to show. If you want to win your spouse's heart back, okay, you have to study your spouse. You got to study her. And I think a lot of times because we've been married for so long, we assume we know everything about our partner, but we really don't. We only know certain aspects of our spouse. There's a deeper dive that you can do. And so it kind of reminds me of Amazon, right? So Jeff Bezos in 2016 wrote a letter to his shareholders, and he was talking about the importance of the customer. And he began to share his philosophy with his staff, with his shareholders, and with the world. And he said, he was quoted as saying, customers are always beautifully, wonderfully dissatisfied, even when they report being happy and business is great. Even when they don't know it, customers want something better, and your desire to delight customers will drive you to invent on their behalf. In essence, he was saying that the key to his success is customer obsession. To study everything about your customer, even the things that they do not articulate. If you truly understand their behavior, their mindset, their mentality, their strengths, their weaknesses, their desires, what turns them on, what turns them off, you don't have to wait for them to articulate anything. You can invent on their behalf. So he created Amazon Prime, which allowed 2-day deliveries. Well, prior to that, it wasn't like there was a lot of buzz where people were complaining necessarily about the fact that it took too long to get these packages. But because he knew his customer inside out, he knew what they ultimately desired. So he created that program, and it was highly successful. And it was proof that, wow, this is what they really wanted. Because if they didn't want it, they would not sign up for the membership. And then once the membership came out, all of a sudden, people began to articulate, thank God for 2-day shipping, because man, having to wait 5 and 6 and 7 days. So he inherently knew that because of a deep dive study that he did of his customer. If we take the same approach, man, what a difference it'll make in our relationships. And so we're not saying to become obsessed with your spouse, but what we're saying is to be intentional, to take the time to explore. How do you do that? You do it through observation and participation. Observing from a distance. What do you notice? What do you observe? What patterns, what trends are you paying attention to that you can write down and begin to show up in a particular way that leans into that? What questions are you asking? What answers are you giving? What are they saying? What are they not saying when they actually say? See, you have to have a desire to really get into the crevices of who your spouse is so that you can show up and be for them what they ultimately desire. It makes me think of George Washington Carver. George Washington Carver was an inventor. We're not talking about George Washington, the former president, but George Washington Carver, African-American inventor, and he was known for literally the peanut. And because he studied this peanut, he was able to invent 268 different uses and purposes for the peanut. And he was known as someone who had a one-way commitment to the peanut. When you read the biographies, it says that the peanut didn't love him back. The peanut did not have some love and desire for him, but he had such a love and a desire and a one-way commitment to the peanut that he peeled back every layer. He studied everything and found over 268 uses for the peanut. One small peanut. You'll be surprised and amazed the inventions that came from this. And so if we take that principle and apply it to our marriage, maybe as you're winning your spouse's heart back, they're not fully on board. They're not willing to give you time, energy, and effort. They are so jaded. They are so frustrated. They are so done that what you're looking for, this is not the season to expect it because of all the harm that has been done. So you may, for a period of time, have to have a one-way commitment to your spouse, that whatever it takes, you're going to study them. You're going to pull out everything that you can from them in order to provide for them what they need so that you can win your spouse's heart back. These are the necessary things that you have to do, particularly if there's been a betrayal in your relationship. And so when we have this mentality that says, it don't take all that, I'm not doing all that, what about the one thing that I did? Well, the problem is there was a lack of consistency, because doing something one time does not garner you any type of success, any type of victory. It certainly doesn't give you brownie points. It certainly doesn't give you a trophy or a plaque. You're not going to be rewarded for the one time you did something right, but it is your consistency in doing the right thing over a period of time and having a one-way commitment, not expecting anything back in return. Because I do this, now you have to do that. It doesn't work like that. Even when a farmer is sowing seeds into the ground for a season of time, they're sowing and sowing and sowing and sowing and sowing and sowing and sowing until eventually the law of germination takes hold and something sprouts up out of the ground. So there's a season when you're sowing, there's a season of waiting, there's a season where you have to be diligent but yet patient, not expecting a return or a harvest tomorrow, but over the course of time, something is brewing underneath the surface, and it will germinate and it will manifest into a crop. Likewise, the same thing as you're depositing seeds into your spouse's heart. You got to understand it's going to take some time for him or her to become a believer. It's going to take some time for that stony heart to become one of flesh. It's going to take some time to break up the fallow ground. And so your consistency over a period of time will lead to transformation. Guys, we're talking about how to win your spouse's heart back. I want you to weigh in. If you have any thoughts or any questions, feel free to drop that in the text. We're going to go to a quick commercial break. You're watching the Couples Academy show. Stay tuned. Guys, we're back. You're watching the Couples Academy show. We're talking about the things that you need to do to win your spouse's heart back. But before we go to the next one, I got to acknowledge the people who are in the chat. Derek, good morning. Prince of Pettyway, good to see you. Shalise Oliver, nice to see you. Autumn, Miss Jules, David, Vashan, Mary Catherine Rawson. Listen, good to see you all. I want to speak to this. Autumn raised a question or made a point. She said, I cheated 4 years ago. My partner took me back, but he wanted vivid details of how the sexual encounter went with my affair partner. I admitted to him that the experience was good. He's been having ruminating thoughts every single day for the last 4 years. No amount of reassurance or talking about it helps. We do not currently have the finances for therapy. I have no idea how to reach him or help him. Things are only getting worse between us, and I fear that it's at the point of no return for us. So let me speak to a couple of things. So, in the full disclosure process, we talk about the importance of being open and honest in sharing certain things. And so when we're guiding people through a process, oftentimes when questions are being asked, before they're asked, we ask the person asking the questions why they want to know certain things. Is it because of curiosity? Because curiosity killed the cat, as they say. And so sometimes certain personality types, certain individuals cannot handle certain things because once they know, they can't unknow. Once they see, they can't unsee. Once they hear, they can't unhear. And while for some, detailed information will help, for others, it may hurt, harm, or hinder. And so understanding who you are and understanding who your spouse is critically important. And seeking wisdom and advice in terms of what types of conversations one should have. And so, there are no specific rules that I can say because some couples have had those conversations where they literally got into the nooks and crannies of positions and all types of things, and it was actually helpful for that couple or helpful for that individual because they needed to know. And there is this thing where you can learn from an affair. You can. You could learn what to do. You could learn what not to do. You could learn what was missing. You could learn what to begin to lean into. You can learn all types of things if you're engaging in full discovery for the purpose of truly trying to understand. A lot of times people don't go into full discovery with the right mindset. The goal isn't to understand, because if I understand what you did, then I'm giving you a pass. Then I'm saying that it was okay. Then I'm making you feel like, oh, what you did was no big deal. And that's not the case at all. If we truly want to understand, understanding the why of why it happened and understanding the what, to get the healing, the closure, the clarity that we need to move forward, then fine, questions are necessary. But if you know in yourself and if you know your spouse that certain things will just not help, but will actually make things worse, and in this case, he's ruminating and can't get those thoughts out of his mind for 4 years, then that is a problem. Now, the answer to that is, well, you've already done it, so what do we do about it now, right? Okay, so here we go. I want to challenge you a little bit, because I have heard from countless people, I can't afford it. Now, I don't know your situation. I don't want to discredit your statement. But let me challenge you to say, you can't afford it. You can afford what you choose to afford. People put their money with their priorities. If we think about what the typical counseling session is, wherever you may go, is going to be anywhere between $150 to $250, let's say. The question is, what are you willing to give up to get the things that you say that you want? When you tell me that you can't afford it, what can you give up so that you can make space, time, and money to afford it? Okay, if you look in the bank account and say, well, I just don't have the money, and okay, so what can you do that you currently do not do that will create the money that you need to get what it is that you say that you want? Do you want to restore marriage? Do you want to get back to a better place with your spouse? When you say that we're at the point of no return, Well, that would mean that divorce is pending. But guess what? Divorce comes at a cost. How much does a divorce cost? Would you rather invest your money in Couples Academy or some form of counseling, or would you rather invest your money in divorce? Because divorce is a heavy financial price. Not only are you paying for the court fees, not only are you paying for the attorneys, not only are you paying, child support, alimony, like it does not end. I would say do everything in your power to move heaven and earth, to figure out a way to get the money. It's not about your resources. It's about your resourcefulness. You don't have to have the money. But if you have access to someone who does, or if you have a thought of how you can get it, stepping outside of the box and beginning to think differently. If you truly want what you say that you want, you will do whatever it takes to get what it is that you say that you want. I know you don't want to be in this pain anymore. What would you be willing to pay to not be in this pain? What would you be willing to pay to not be in this relational lull that you find yourself? What would you be willing to pay to have peace of mind and healing and wholeness and restoration? If you're willing to do whatever it takes, not having the money is no longer an option. Tell yourself a different story. Figure out a way. Make it happen. Just like you've made things happen in other areas of your life, make it happen for your marriage. Put your money where your marriage is. Now, I'm not just talking to you, Autumn. I'm talking to all of you. All of you. Because what happens is we can justify the Beyonce tickets. We can justify the new outfit with the matching shoes and purse. We can justify eating out. You go out to eat for two, you're paying easy $100, $150, $200 to eat food, to be hungry a couple of hours later. Why? Because that's where you placed your value. That's what you prioritized. And so when you think about all the places that your money is going, how could you redirect it? How could you put it in a place that will serve you better? So this is a message for all of us. All of us. Because if we really have a true desire, nothing will keep us from getting what we say that we want. Let's go to Prince of Petty. I'm broken mentally. I cheated out of fear of abandonment and self-sabotage. And I self-sabotage everything. I love my deeply. Okay. Yet I hurt her like that. How do I not make anything worse? Show her that I'm sorry. Can I read that again? I'm broken mentally. I cheated out of fear of abandonment and I self-sabotaged everything. I love her deeply, yet I hurt her like that. How do I not make anything worse? Show her that I'm sorry. Well, what have you done to work towards the restoration of the marriage? What has your spouse requested of you that you are not doing? How are you showing up consistently to win back her heart and to win back her love? What are you doing to work on you to overcome your fear of abandonment? Because if you don't do the personal work to get to the root of the problem and overcome your fear of abandonment, that fear will drive you to do other things that compromise your life and your marriage. And so regardless of how much you love your spouse, see, you cheating on your spouse is not a matter of you not loving her. You can have a genuine love for your spouse, but continue to do harm to your spouse and to your marriage because you have an internal deficit that you haven't addressed or resolved. So once you begin to really get the self-work, and see, this is the problem. See, oftentimes we think that the only one who needs to get help is the betrayed spouse because their heart is bleeding, they're emotional, they haven't been able to gain control of their lives, they can't eat, they can't sleep, they can't function, all these different things, so they need to get the work. But the person who actually did the initial betrayal oftentimes minimizes, right, the need to get the personal work done on his or herself. If you admit that there was some brokenness within me that led me to do what I did, well, how you get her to not hurt, how you get her to recommit to this relationship is by focusing on you becoming the best version of yourself. She should not be forced to sign up for more of who you've always been. What's motivating about remaining committed to someone who still has that level of brokenness that they haven't healed? It will be motivating to say, wow, he's actually working on himself. I'm beginning to see the change. I'm seeing him show up different. He has a different mentality. He shows up in this relationship in a way that proves to me that he's whole and healed and complete. That's what she's looking for. So rather than you focusing on what you need to do, focus on who you need to become. See, that's the key to your personal breakthrough. So I hope that's helping. I can't believe it is 10 o'clock. I'm going to stay around for one more question, and then all the other questions I will take tomorrow. He continues to say, I don't have the answer to any of that. I'm in therapy and medicated. I do everything I'm asked of in the home. I work 12 hours a day. I cook, I clean, fighting for custody of my kid from my ex. I'm doing everything I've thought of. Okay, well, that's good, man. I'm glad that you are doing something. It seems like you are doing a lot. So, let me honor you for what you're doing. When you talk to your spouse, does she acknowledge that you're doing these things? Are you doing these things from her perspective to the capacity that you're articulating you're doing these things? And then the other question would be, well, if you're doing these things, what is she saying you're still not doing? Okay, because I know many people who will focus on doing a number of things, but they are not in alignment with what the spouse needs. Okay, so for instance, hey, I buy you flowers, I get you candy, I compliment you. Yeah, that's great, I appreciate that, but what I need is, and so are you truly hearing what she needs? Remember, study your spouse. Studying your spouse means having conversations and asking and probing, what is it that I can do to help you heal? What am I not doing that I can begin to do? What am I doing that I should be more consistent at doing that will help you heal? The answer really comes from her. Okay? So are you asking her the question, and are you listening to the answer that would bring about the solution for you? Last point. This is Tina. I'm wondering, Tina, did you say something earlier? Okay. But when the questions don't get answered, what are you as the offended partner to believe, especially when the unfaithful partner has already checked out? Yeah, that's the challenge. I was just really talking to a couple last night about this. The husband asked the wife a question. She refused to answer him. Refused. And so what you do, you create more suspicion in your spouse when you refuse to answer the question. And their mind and their emotions and their imagination begin to run wild. And I always compare it to putting a puzzle together. There are many pieces to the puzzle. But as I'm putting this puzzle together, there are missing pieces. And so I can't figure out what this thing is supposed to look like. And the spouse acts as the missing piece to the puzzle. And when you, as the spouse, the betrayer, the one who has the answers, refuse to give your partner the answers, you're keeping them from putting all the pieces together. But when you become someone who's open and honest and shares anything and everything with your spouse, then all of a sudden the puzzle comes together. They can figure it out. They have the healing. They have the clarity. They have the closure. They can move forward and no longer obsess about what it is that they do not know. So a lot of us want things, but we're not willing to do whatever it takes to get what it is that we say that we want, because we want things on our terms. We want things our way. And when we attempt to do that, we make our matters worse. So really, we're trying to win our spouse's heart back, but actually we're losing more of our spouse's heart because we become so stubborn, so unwilling, so difficult to deal with, so disagreeable in the process that it winds up working against us. Listen, we're talking about how to win our spouse's heart back. We're going to continue this conversation tomorrow for part 2. So make sure you tune in and you stick around. I appreciate you for watching. This is the Couples Academy show. We'll see you on tomorrow.